The human research ship Aurora's Hope drifted silently near an uncharted moon. Most of the crew slept after a long day of surveys. But one man stayed awake in the cargo bay, Evan Carter, a young engineer who preferred machines over people. He was fixing a loose panel when he noticed something strange inside a cracked storage crate. At first, he thought it was just a piece of metal scrap. But when he pulled it out, he realized it looked like a bracelet, smooth and silver, with small blue lines like frozen lightning. Evan frowned. "Probably some alien tech sample we forgot to log," he muttered. He turned it in his hands. It felt warm. Too warm. He knew he should report it. He knew he should place it in a containment scanner. But curiosity nudged him. It didn't look dangerous, just old, maybe ceremonial. "Let's see how heavy you are," he said. He slipped the bracelet onto his wrist. The moment it touched his skin, the metal tightened with a sharp click. Evan froze. What? He tried pulling it off. No luck. It fit perfectly, almost like it was made for him. The blue lines glowed faintly. Before he could panic, the cargo bay door slid open, and someone stepped inside. It was Lyra, the new alien diplomat assigned to the ship. Her people, the Aurelians, were tall and graceful, with pale skin that shimmered like moonlight and eyes that shifted through soft colors. Lyra usually carried herself like a trained ambassador, calm, polite, very controlled. But the moment she saw the bracelet on Evan's wrist, everything changed. Her eyes widened until they were almost glowing white. Her body stiffened. Her voice cracked as she screamed, "You wore the bracelet?" Evan blinked. Yeah?" It was in a crate and her hands shook. Her voice became high and panicked. "That means we're lifelong partners now." Silence swallowed the cargo bay. Evan stared at her. She stared at him. The ship hummed in the background, unaware that Evan Carter may have just made a universe-sized mistake. "Partners?" Evan repeated slowly. "Like co-workers?" "No." Lyra stepped forward quickly, almost tripping. "Not co-workers. Not teammates. Not friends." She shook her head rapidly, hair swaying like silver threads. "Lifelong partners. Soul-bound partners. Bonded partners. Forever partners." Evan's brain skipped 3 beats. "Hold on, forever. I was just testing it." "You cannot test it," she cried. "You cannot remove it. You cannot undo it." Her voice echoed like she was giving a warning that carried centuries of meaning. Evan lifted his wrist helplessly. "It's just a bracelet." Lyra shook her head again, fear in her eyes. "That is not just a bracelet. It is an Aurelian binding band." Evan had read about Aurelian culture, but only the basics. He knew nothing about their rituals, their symbols, or their sacred items. "Okay," he said carefully. "What does the binding band do?" Lyra took a deep breath, trying to calm herself, but her voice still trembled. "It creates a life bond. Once worn, it links 2 spirits, 2 lives, 2 futures." She swallowed hard. "The bond cannot be broken. Not unless one of us dies." Evan felt his stomach drop like a stone sinking into cold water. "That's extreme." "It is tradition," Lyra insisted. "Strong tradition. Ancient tradition." She paced back and forth, hands pressed to her forehead. She clearly didn't know what to do. She wasn't angry, she was terrified. Evan tried again to twist the bracelet off. It only grew warmer and tighter. Lyra gasped. "Stop, you will activate it faster." "Activate what?" "The bond." Evan froze. Lyra looked around as if expecting soldiers to burst in. "My people. They take a binding band very seriously. If they see you wearing it, they will think you and I chose each other." "Chose each other for what?" Evan asked weakly. She covered her face with both hands. "For marriage." Evan almost fainted. "Marriage?" I didn't even know it was jewelry. You should have asked. She snapped. Aurelian culture is complicated. Well, your complicated bracelet was lying in a broken crate. That crate was locked. She cried. Not very well. Evan muttered. The bracelet on his wrist suddenly glowed brighter. The blue lines pulsed like a heartbeat. Lyra stepped back, shaking. No. No, no, no. It's reacting to you. It has started the bond process. Evan felt something strange like a soft hum traveling up his arm and into his chest. Lyra? She stared at the glowing bracelet, her voice barely a whisper. We only have a short time before it seals the bond forever. Evan's mouth went dry. And if it seals? Lyra met his eyes with a mix of fear and fate. Then you and I are linked. For life. Evan sat on an overturned crate, staring at the glowing bracelet as if it were a live bomb. The soft blue light crawled along his skin like tiny rivers of electricity. Every pulse made him more nervous. Across from him, Lyra paced in fast circles, her long silver hair swaying behind her like a comet tail. She usually looked elegant, calm, and almost royal. But now she was shaking so hard that even her voice trembled. This is bad. This is very, very bad, she muttered, tapping her fingers together. My people will misunderstand everything. They will think it was planned. Evan took a slow breath. Lyra, can you please explain everything? Slowly. Because right now I feel like I accidentally pressed the self-destruct button on a whole culture. Lyra stopped pacing. She looked at Evan with wide, frightened eyes. On my world, Aurelia, she began softly, we do not choose partners with words. We do not use simple promises. We use symbols. Sacred symbols. The binding band is the strongest of them all. Evan raised an eyebrow. So it's like a wedding ring? No, Lyra shook her head firmly. A wedding ring means two people agree. This means two souls are chosen. The bracelet would not activate if the universe rejected the pairing. Evan stared at her. What does that mean? The universe approved me. I'm just an engineer who can't even fix a crate properly. Lyra sighed. She wasn't angry, just overwhelmed. The band reacts to heart energy, to instinct, to destiny. It does not care about job titles. She pointed at the glowing bracelet. It chose you when you placed it on your wrist. He looked at the band again as if it had betrayed him personally. Lyra walked closer, stopping only a few feet away. She lowered her voice. Evan, do you understand how serious this is? Not really, he admitted. But every 5 minutes you tell me I've ruined your life, so I'm guessing it's very serious. Her eyes turned a deep shade of blue, a color Evan had not seen before. It looked sad. On Aurelia, she said, the binding band is given only to someone you trust with your soul. If an Aurelian places it on another person, it means they want to spend their whole life together. And if the other person wears it, even by accident, the bond begins. Forever? He asked quietly. She nodded. Forever. Evan rubbed his forehead. So, what happens if someone breaks the bond? Lyra stiffened instantly. Breaking the bond is seen as betrayal. Deep betrayal. If the Aurelian Council thinks you forced me, or tricked me, or ignored the meaning. She swallowed hard. They might declare a diplomatic conflict. Even war. Evan stared at her. No, we're not starting a war because I touched the wrong bracelet. That's insane. She hugged herself, voice soft and scared. My people will arrive tomorrow for the peace summit. If they see the band on you, they will expect us to stand together. They will expect me to speak for you. They will expect us to share a life path. Share a life path. Evan whispered. I barely share my tools with people. Lyra tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. Evan saw her hands shaking. She wasn't upset because the bond tied her to him. She was upset because she feared the consequences for both of them. Lyra, he said slowly, you're scared of your people, aren't you? She hesitated, then nodded. Aurelians follow rules. Sacred rules. If they think the bond is false or forced, they will blame you. And they will blame me. And they will not listen to reason. Evan leaned back, rubbing his eyes. So I can't take it off, you can't take it off, and your people can't see it. Perfect. Lyra took a shaky breath. There is one more problem. Evan looked up, exhausted. Of course there is. The band does not only link lives. It links emotions. Evan froze. What? Lyra pointed to the bracelet. Soon, your feelings will mix with mine. My fear, my thoughts, your instincts. Everything will start blending. You will feel what I feel. And I will feel what you feel. Evan's mouth dropped open. That's awful. No offense. None taken, Lyra said sadly. It is not meant for humans. It is meant for two Aurelians who already want to be connected. He stared at her helplessly. How long until that starts? She looked at the bracelet's glow. Maybe hours. Maybe minutes. Evan sank deeper onto the crate. This is the worst day of my life. Lyra sat down across from him. Gently, like she feared she might break. Evan, she whispered. It is the worst day of mine too. But we cannot panic. We must work together, or the bond will seal faster. Evan sighed. Okay, fine. What do we do? Lyra finally met his eyes with a mix of fear and fragile hope. We start by finding out who broke the crate. Because someone wanted this bond to happen. The cargo bay felt colder as Evan and Lyra stood side by side, staring at the glowing bracelet. The soft light no longer blinked, it pulsed like a living heart. And with every pulse, Evan felt a strange little tug deep in his chest, as if someone were knocking on his emotions from the inside. He tried to ignore it, but the knock came again. He swallowed. Lyra? I think the bracelet is doing something. Lyra stepped closer, though her hands trembled. It has started phase 2, she whispered. Recognition. It is learning your energy. Evan frowned. Learning my energy? Like some kind of alien pet? Lyra shook her head quickly. No, like a spirit partner. It is deciding how to match you to me. That made Evan feel even worse. I didn't ask to be matched. I know, Lyra said softly. But the band does not care about wishes. It only follows ancient laws. The blue lines on the bracelet brightened, glowing almost neon. Evan felt a warm wave crawl up his arm, then across his shoulder, like invisible fingers brushing against him. He shivered. I just felt something. Lyra's eyes shifted colors, a soft ripple of blue and silver. That is the bond touching your mind. It is testing your emotions. Testing them for what? To see if you resist. She said quietly. Or accept. Evan didn't like the sound of that dot suddenly. The bracelet flashed a quick, sharp burst of light. Evan gasped as a sudden emotion hit him. Fear. Pure fear. But it wasn't his. He turned slowly to look at Lyra. She was breathing fast, panic rising inside her. Lyra. Was that you? He asked softly. She nodded, eyes wide. You felt my fear. Evan stared at her. So the emotions. They're mixing already. Yes, she whispered. The band is forming the connection faster than I thought. Evan leaned against the wall to steady himself. He didn't want to feel someone else's emotions. He barely handled his own. Lyra walked closer, her expression tense. We do not have much time. Soon the band will reach phase 3. And phase 3 is the link, she said. A full emotional bridge between you and me. You will feel everything I feel. And I will feel everything you feel. Evan shook his head. That's too much. Humans aren't built for that. Aurelians only bond with someone they trust completely, Lyra said. Someone they want to share their heart with. That is why the bracelet is sacred. Evan exhaled slowly. And I'm the unlucky human who triggered it because I'm an idiot. You are not an idiot, Lyra said firmly. You were curious. And someone used that curiosity against us. Evan looked at her sharply. You think someone did this on purpose? Lyra nodded. The crate was broken. No Aurelian would leave a binding band unprotected. Someone wanted you to find it. Evan frowned. But why? What would they gain from forcing a bond between a human engineer and an Aurelian diplomat? Lyra hesitated. Aurelian politics is complicated. Some do not want peace with humans. A forced bond could cause confusion, shame, or anger. It could ruin tomorrow's meeting. And start a conflict, Evan added. Yes. Lyra's voice shook. But we must not panic. If the band seals before we understand what is happening, the council will think I chose you willingly. They will think I hid it from them. Evan rubbed his forehead. I don't want you getting punished for something I did. Lyra looked away. And I do not want you punished for something someone else did. Just then, a soft humming rose from the bracelet. Evan felt a slow pressure in his chest. Like his heartbeat had a double echo now his own, and something faint and distant. He didn't understand it at first, but then he realized it was Lyra's heartbeat. He stepped back quickly. I can hear you. I can actually hear your heartbeat. Lyra looked horrified. No. That means the band is ahead of schedule. What does that mean? In simple words, the bond might complete tonight. Evan's eyes widened. Tonight? Lyra nodded, fear filling her voice. Yes, and once it completes, nothing can undo it. Not your people. Not my people. Not even the council. Evan felt a cold sweat slide down his back. The bracelet glowed brighter, warm, and alive. The pulsing grew faster. Then, out of nowhere, the cargo bay lights flickered. A low rumble echoed through the ship. Evan straightened. That wasn't the bracelet. No, Lyra said, stepping closer to him instinctively. That was something else. Another rumble, louder than the ship's alarm blared. Warning. Unknown energy surge lower. Deck. Evan and Lyra stared at each other. Bond wasn't their only problem now. Something else had entered the ship, something dangerous. And the bracelet pulsed. Again, almost like it sensed the coming threat. The red alarm lights blinked across the walls, painting the cargo bay in sharp flashes of warning. Evan felt his heart jump each time the alarm repeated. Unknown energy surge detected. Lower deck. Proceed with caution. He looked at Lyra, hoping she had some peaceful explanation. She did not. Her eyes were bright with fear, and her breathing had turned quick and uneven. The emotional echo from the bracelet hit him a moment later, and his chest tightened with her fear as if it were his own. Lyra, he said softly, are you okay? She hugged her arms, trying to control her shaking. No, something feels wrong. Something dark. Like a heavy shadow pressing against my mind. Evan gave her a worried look. Is that the bond? Yes, she whispered. It lets me sense strong danger. And whatever is down there, it does not feel natural. Another tremble ran through the ship strong enough to rattle crates and tools. The deck beneath their feet vibrated like something massive was moving below. Evan grabbed a handrail. That definitely wasn't a system glitch. Lyra stepped closer to him, instinctively, as though the bond pulled her towards safety. We need to go to the lower deck. If something is damaging the ship, we must stop it before it reaches the engine core. That's a lot of responsibility for two people who just became accident partners, Evan muttered, but she didn't smile. She didn't even blink. Instead, she said, we are already tied by the band. If the ship is in danger, we cannot run from it. Evan sighed deeply. All right. Let's go. They left the cargo bay and moved into the dim hallway. The emergency lights glowed a dull red, flickering like tired candles. Every few seconds, the alarm echoed through the ship, followed by distant metallic groans as they descended the ladder to the lower deck. The air grew colder, strangely cold, like the heat was being sucked out of the walls. Evan rubbed his arms. Why is it freezing down here? The temperature controls shouldn't. He stopped. A thick, swirling fog drifted across the corridor floor like silver smoke. It had not been there 5 seconds earlier, Lyra gasped, and Evan felt the same fear roll through his chest as the bond amplified it. That is not fog, she whispered. That is energy. A living kind. Evan blinked. Living fog. What does that even mean? It means something brought its own atmosphere, she said. Something not from our ship. They moved slowly, step by step, deeper into the hallway. The glowing fog thickened, clinging to their legs like cold fingers. The lights flickered harder. Then they saw it at the far end of the corridor. A tall, shadowy shape stood perfectly still. Its edges were blurry, as if it wasn't fully solid. Blue sparks crackled around it, matching the same blue glow of Evan's bracelet. Evan's voice dropped to a whisper. Lyra, tell me that's a crew member. That is not human, she said, voice shaking. And it is not Aurelian either. The creature turned slightly, revealing a narrow, elongated head and 2 glowing slits where eyes should be. The slits glowed bright blue, almost the same color as the binding band. Evan felt a sudden wave of anger inside him. Sharp, strong, hot. He froze. Was that you? No, Lyra whispered. That emotion was not mine. Evan swallowed hard. Then whose was it? The creature let out a low growl, more like a vibrating hum, deeper than any voice they had ever heard. The walls shook in response. Pieces of metal rattled on the floor. Lyra grabbed Evan's arm, the bracelet glowing brighter where it touched her. We need to fall back, she said. That thing is connected to the band somehow. I can feel it calling. Evan felt the same pull, a strange magnetic tug toward the creature. Why is it calling us? Lyra shook her head. I don't know. But it wants something. And it feels hungry. The creature moved too fast for something that large. In the blink of an eye, it slid forward several feet, its fog-like body stretching unnaturally. Evan and Lyra both jumped back. Run! Evan shouted. They sprinted down the corridor, the creature chasing them with long gliding movements. It didn't walk, it floated, bending and stretching through the hallway like smoke that wanted to swallow them. They turned sharply into the engine maintenance room. Evan slammed the door shut, breathing hard. That thing wasn't here before today, Evan said. Something let it on board. Lyra nodded slowly. And I fear that someone did it to push the bond. What does that mean? It means, she whispered, eyes wide with realization, someone wants you and me trapped. Someone planned this. Someone wants the binding band to seal. No matter the cost. Evan stared at her, heartbeat pounding hers echoing faintly inside him. You're saying the creature was sent for us? Yes, Lyra said. But the question is why? The engine lights flickered and the creature's shadow slid under the door. The thin black shadow seeped under the engine room door like spilled ink. Evan froze. Lyra grabbed his wrist so tightly that he felt her emotions pulse through the bracelet fear. Sharp and cold, the shadow thickened, rising like smoke twisting into a shape. The creature from the hallway slowly rebuilt its body on the other side of the door. Its glowing blue eye slits flickered like twin flames. Evan whispered. It followed us. It wants the band, Lyra said, pulling him back. I can feel it reaching for the energy. Why? Evan asked. Before she could answer, the creature struck. A long, fog-like arm slammed into the door, denting the metal as if it were thin aluminum. Evan stepped back quickly. "We need a plan," he said. "Please tell me your people taught you some fighting moves." Lyra shook her head. "Diplomats do not fight." "But," she closed her eyes. "The bond gives me instincts I do not usually have." Evan blinked. Meaning I might be able to protect us if you stay close." He opened his mouth to ask what close meant, but the creature smashed the door again, this time breaking it off its hinges. The metal fell with a loud clang. The creature floated in, stretching tall until its head brushed the ceiling. Its entire form flickered with blue static, like an unstable energy storm. Evan backed away. "Lyra, we need those instincts now." Lyra stepped in front of him. Her hands began to glow. Soft at first, then brighter, brighter, until the entire room shimmered with a pale blue light matching the bracelet on Evan's wrist. "What are you doing?" Evan asked. "The band," she whispered, "shares our strength. Your courage is flowing into me." "Courage?" Evan said. "I'm terrified." "Even so," she said, voice steadying, "you ran to protect me. The band reacts to intent." The creature lunged. Lyra threw her hands forward, releasing a burst of energy so bright Evan had to shield his eyes. The blast struck the creature, sending it skidding back across the floor like a wave being pushed by the wind. Evan stared at Lyra. "Why didn't you tell me you could do that?" She shook her head, glowing softly. "I could not. That is the bond's power, not mine." The creature screeched a sound like metal scraping against metal. It charged again, moving faster than before. It swung an arm toward Lyra, but Evan instinctively grabbed her waist and pulled her to the side. The creature's arm hit the ground, cracking the floor. Evan felt her fear surge into him, and he felt his own panic push back into her. But somehow, the emotions didn't make them weak, they aligned, sharpening their senses. Lyra whispered, "I feel what you feel, and you feel what I feel. If we move together, we can match the creature's speed." Evan nodded. "Then let's do it." The creature lunged. Evan and Lyra moved at the same moment, without speaking, without planning, almost like they shared one instinct. Evan ducked under the creature's arm while Lyra spun to the side, sending another energy pulse into its torso. The blast tore a piece of foggy mass from its body. The creature screeched louder, its form flickering. "It's working!" Evan shouted. But the creature struck back, slamming the floor. The shockwave tossed Evan into a wall. Pain exploded across his back. Lyra felt it at the same time he did. She gasped, hand on her chest. "Evan!" He pushed himself up. "I'm fine." "I think the bond is copying the pain too." "That is not fine," Lyra said, running to him. The creature moved again, slower now, unstable, like its form was melting. It reached toward the bracelet, drawn to its energy. Evan saw it coming. "Lyra, behind you." She turned just in time. The creature swung its arm, but instead of dodging, Lyra grabbed Evan's hand. The bracelet exploded with light. A shockwave burst outward, hitting the creature with a force that shook the entire engine room. The fog-like monster shrieked, body peeling apart in streams of blue light. It dissolved like smoke in strong wind, leaving nothing but a fading echo of its cry. Silence filled the room. The emergency lights flickered back to normal. Evan sat down on the floor, breathing hard. Lyra collapsed beside him, clutching his wrist where the bracelet still glowed faintly. "It is gone," she whispered. "For good?" Evan asked. "I do not know," she said. "But that creature was drawn to the band, and now the band is stronger." Evan frowned. "Stronger how?" Lyra met his eyes. "The bond between us has advanced. Fighting side by side. Strengthened it. The band is nearly complete." Evan's stomach tightened. "What happens when it completes?" Lyra looked away, voice barely a whisper. "When it completes, we become true partners. Fully bonded, emotionally, spiritually, forever." The bracelet pulsed once, soft, warm. And final. The bond was speeding up. Something or someone wanted it sealed. The engine room was quiet now, too quiet. Only the small humming of the ship's systems broke the silence. Evan sat with his back against the wall, breathing slowly, trying to push away the pain from when he hit the metal panel earlier. Lyra sat beside him, her silver hair spread across her shoulders, her eyes fixed on the glowing bracelet between them. The creature was gone, but the fear it brought remained. Evan finally spoke. So, the monster disappears, and the bond grows stronger. Wonderful. Lyra didn't laugh, didn't smile. Instead, she touched the bracelet lightly with her fingertips. The band is reacting to danger, she said softly. It thinks we are already partners. It believes we want to protect each other. Well, Evan muttered, we didn't have much choice. She looked at him, then really looked at him. And yet, you protected me. You tried to shield me. I felt your courage. I felt your fear. I even felt your pain. Yeah, Evan admitted, rubbing his back. I felt yours too. That's something I never want to feel again. But Lyra shook her head. No, the bond is not pain. It's connection. Before today, I never understood how humans felt inside. But now I can feel it, your honesty, your panic, your stubborn bravery. Now I can feel it, your honesty, your honesty, your honesty, your panic, your stubborn bravery. He asked. Yes, she said with a faint smile. Very stubborn. Evan sighed. I'll take that as a compliment. Before Lyra could answer, a loud ping sounded from the ship's comm system. A calm, robotic voice filled the room. Attention crew, Aurelian fleet detected. Arrival in 15 minutes. Evan and Lyra both froze. 15 minutes? Evan repeated. They weren't supposed to come until tomorrow. They must have sensed something wrong, Lyra whispered. Or someone called them early. Evan frowned. Who would call them? Lyra hesitated, then said quietly, someone who wanted the bond sealed before they arrived. Evan felt a chill. Meaning? Someone on this ship? It is possible, she said. But that is not our biggest problem now. She stood up slowly, steadying herself with a deep breath. My people will scan the ship as soon as they get close. If they detect the binding band, they will know the bond is active. Evan pushed himself to his feet. And they'll think you and I chose this. Yes, she said. And they will expect us to stand before the council together. As partners. Evan rubbed his forehead. This is insane. I'm just a guy who fixes pipes and wires. I don't know anything about alien councils. Lyra stepped closer, her voice gentle. You underestimate yourself. You faced danger today without running. Even when you were scared, you fought to save the ship. Yeah, Evan muttered. Because if this ship explodes, we all die. It wasn't hero stuff, just basic survival. But you didn't leave me, Lyra said quietly. You stayed beside me. The band noticed that. He couldn't argue with that. They both looked at the bracelet, which glowed softly like a quiet heartbeat. Evan finally asked the question that had been growing in his chest since the moment the door broke open. Lyra, what happens if the Aurelian fleet sees us and decides the bond is incomplete? Her expression tightened. Then they will demand we finish it. The ritual. The emotional sealing. Aurelians believe an incomplete bond is dangerous, unstable. They will not let us walk away. Evan swallowed hard. And if I say no? Her eyes dimmed. Then they may think you are dishonoring me. And that would be very bad. How bad? He asked. She hesitated. They might take you for questioning. They might separate us. They might accuse you of manipulating me or stealing the band. Evan felt his stomach twist. I didn't steal anything. I know, she said firmly. But tradition does not care about explanations. Evan walked toward the nearest panel, staring at the blinking warning lights. So we're trapped. If we go out there, they want the bond finished. If we hide, they think something is wrong. Yes, Lyra said. Which is why we must choose. Evan slowly turned back toward her. Choose what? Lyra stepped close, her voice soft but steady. Whether we face my people together, or run from them. Evan blinked. Run? As in, escape the ship? She nodded. Yes, if you run, the bond cannot be forced. We could hide until the council calms. You would be safe. Evan stared at her, shocked. And what about you? Lyra looked down. I would stay. I would tell them I acted alone. That you never wanted the bond. They would punish me, but you would be free. Evan's chest tightened, and through the bond he felt her fear, not for herself, but for him. He took a slow step toward her. Lyra, that's not an option. I'm not leaving you to take the blame. Her eyes widened slightly. You would face my people with me? Evan hesitated only a second. Then he nodded. I don't run from my mistakes. And I don't leave people behind. A gentle warmth spread from the bracelet through both of them. Lyra touched his wrist lightly. Then we stand together. Evan nodded. But outside the ship, the Aurelian fleet arrived, towering silver ships that shimmered with living light. Their scanners activated, searching for the binding band. Time had run out. The choice was made, and the bond pulsed softly. Almost relieved. The Aurelian fleet hovered outside the ship like a silver storm. Their hulls shimmered with quiet energy, each ship glowing with shifting colors. They looked beautiful and terrifying. Evan and Lyra stood in the main control room, staring at the large screen where the fleet's lead vessel appeared. Evan felt the weight of every second pressing down on him. Lyra felt it too. He sensed her fear through the bracelet, soft and trembling. Like chilled wind at the edge of a cliff. Evan, she whispered. Once they open communication, there's no turning back. He nodded slowly. I know. The ship's eye made a soft chime. Incoming transmission from Aurelian flagship. Lyra stepped closer to Evan. She didn't touch him. She didn't need to. Through the bracelet, their hearts were already beating in an uneven rhythm, sharing a mix of fear, resolve, and something else. Something warmer. The screen flickered to life. A tall Aurelian male appeared. He had the same silver skin as Lyra, but his eyes glowed with fierce authority. His ceremonial suit shimmered with deep blue and gold marks of high rank. Lyra of House Soren, he said, his voice deep and sharp. Why have we detected a binding band active on your ship? Lyra inhaled sharply. This is Commander Sereth, she whispered to Evan, my cousin, and a leader of the council. Sarath's glowing eyes turned toward Evan. And who is this human? Evan stepped forward, heartbeat thundering in his ears. I'm Evan Carter. I accidentally wore the bracelet. Sarath's eyes narrowed. There is no accident. The band binds only with intention. Evan opened his mouth, but Lyra raised a hand gently. Cousin, she said firmly. Evan did not know what the band was. He did not understand its meaning. Sarath's gaze hardened. Then you failed to protect it. You allowed a sacred symbol to fall into unworthy hands. Lyra flinched. Evan felt it through the bond. That was enough. Evan stepped forward again, voice steady. With respect, Commander. I'm not unworthy. I may be human, but I didn't steal anything. The crate was broken. Someone wanted me to pick it up. Sereth looked unimpressed. Convenient explanation. Evan clenched his fists. It's the truth. Lyra spoke again, her voice stronger this time. The band reacted to him. The bond is not one-sided. It recognized something in Evan. Sarath's eyes flickered. That is troubling. He leaned closer, studying Evan like a puzzle. "Human," Sareth said coldly. "Do you understand what this bond means for my people? For Lyra? For our alliance?" Evan swallowed. "I understand that it wasn't supposed to happen. And I also understand that leaving Lyra alone with the blame wasn't an option." Sareth tilted his head. "So you choose to stand with her?" "Yes," Evan said. "Fully." Lyra looked at him, her eyes softening, shining like liquid silver. He felt her gratitude flow into him, warm, comforting, like a small sun expanding inside his chest. Through the bond, it flowed back to her. Sareth watched the exchange. "The emotional bridge has already begun," he murmured. "Unusual for such a short time." He lifted his hand. A holographic circle appeared, filled with Aurelian symbols. "Lyra, Evan Carter," he said. "The council demands a final answer." Lyra straightened, her fear shifting into calm resolve. Sareth spoke the ritual words. "Do you both agree to accept the bond that has begun? To acknowledge it openly, without lies or resistance? To accept its path, whatever the universe chooses?" Silence filled the room. Lyra looked at Evan. Evan looked at Lyra. The bond hummed softly, warm as a heartbeat. Evan took a breath. "I accept it." Lyra exhaled a small, shaky breath of relief. "I accept it as well." The bracelet burst with light brighter than ever before. A wave of warmth swept through both of them, filling their minds with shared feelings. Lyra's calm, Evan's courage, their fear, their hope, their honesty. Their hearts matched in rhythm, perfectly aligned. Sareth nodded, expression unreadable. "Then the bond is complete." Lyra held Evan's wrist gently. "Evan, are you all right?" He smiled softly. "I think so. I just became a lifelong partner to an alien diplomat. Hard to top that for weirdest day ever." She let out a small laugh, light and beautiful. "Then we start our path together." Evan nodded. "Together." Sareth's voice returned, less harsh this time. "Lyra, Evan Carter, the council recognizes your bond. Our alliance with humanity will grow stronger for it." The screen faded. Lyra turned to Evan. "Our lives are now woven. You will feel what I feel, and I will feel what you feel. But you will not face it alone." Evan smiled. "And neither will you." The bracelet glowed softly, no longer pulsing with fear or warning, but with quiet acceptance. A new beginning. A new bond. A new future. Human and a URELIAN. Partners, by accident, by danger, and now by choice.